What's this?
But the evil calling is 16%.
60%?
Watch. The shake stop.
Brewery that never was. Nobody's ever filmed this before.
I'm honored.
I mean, if you stay near the start of the water, you need some pretty cool clips, like the cloud of water that sends the cloud and shit.
So here we are with the illustrious Jason Kusowski of Art Monster fame, and he has a craft brewery here in Korea, and we're gonna get to know him a little bit. We're gonna see what happens in the Korean craft beer game. So a little bird told me, Jason, that you were in a rock band a while ago. So what made that transition from rock music to beer? What happened there? What is that?
I think when you're a creative type, you're interested in anything that allows you to express yourself or create, kind of to channel your own consciousness. So it was a natural thing while I was playing music. I was drinking a lot of craft beer, and I was like, well, I could probably make these beers taste the way I want them to. So I started working on doing some home brewing, and we would take those beers to like house parties and stuff. And it's, a pretty tight-knit group, in the city I'm from. And so we were friends with a lot of our friends own bars. And they're like, well, when can we carry your beer? And I was like, well, shit. Let me think about that. And then with the advent of technology and the fact that literally anyone could record an album, the writing was kind of on the wall that there wasn't a lot of money to be made in music. Like, we licensed our music and we made decent money for what it was, but it wasn't something you really can make a living off of. And I was like, well, with beer, it'll allow me to be creative and still make a living. And so I decided to cash in my savings and took out a small loan, and I went off to beer school in Chicago.
Okay, I was going to ask you, tell us about the schooling that you went through, yeah.
I went to the Siebel Institute of Chicago. Really good for like networking. A couple of the professors were good. A lot of them were not so good. It was more like they were trying to sell you stuff. Like, here's so-and-so with Hop Oils Company, and let them teach you about hops. And they just try and push stuff on you, or this guy worked for Budweiser, and you're like, yeah, we have all these questions. He's like, yeah, I'm more familiar with like adjunct cookers, like rice cookers and stuff. And we're like, none of us are going to use that. And so you'd ask him like craft-related questions. He had no idea because he sat behind a computer, pushed some buttons, but he didn't brew. So there was some disconnect there, but it was good for what it was. I made a lot of good friends. A lot of the people from our class went on to do big things. One of the guys is running pretty much the head brewer now for Rogue. The other one's The other one's second in command, or running the sour program for Boulevard. The other one runs Maine Brewing Company, Tampa Bay Brewing Company.
Maine as in like the state of Maine?
Maine Brewing Company. Cole from our class makes really awesome stuff at Maine. And so a lot of these people have gone on and done really cool stuff. So it's a great way to meet people. And, we're still all in contact with each other. And so that's, it's really cool that you have that kind of connection. You have any questions.
It's not like home. Yeah, that's some pretty good stuff right there.
But the schooling itself, I would say I learned more in Germany than I.
Okay, I was going to ask you, because part of it's in Chicago and part of it's in Germany, right? Yeah.
If you're getting the international brewing diploma.
Okay. And so, coming into the Germany thing, let me ask you, this kind of ties into how you ended up in Korea. So, can you tell us how Korea came about through all this, and then kind of explain more of the money side of who's fronting this operation and who's running this money-wise, and how did you get in contact with them?
Well, I met Andrew when I was in beer school. It was kind of funny because he was actually he ran a hedge fund, so he was actually day trading throughout the day. And I would write really in-depth explanations. They'd give us study sheets, and I would just I had a place to live in Chicago, so I wasn't living with like a lot of people in the class. I happened to have a place I could stay, so I would just go home at night and I would just work on these brew sheets, and he would take those and he's like, I assume he thought, wow, this kid kind of knows what he's talking about. And you know, over when we went to before we went over to Germany, he's like, here's what we're thinking about doing in Korea. You know, it's me and my father. We're looking at, you know, building a brewery. The market there is really young. It's, you know, it's got a lot of room for growth. Would you be interested?
You didn't quite come through at the very beginning of the brewery. This was already kind of being hatched, and you came along a little bit later, or how does that?
Because I came along after the idea phase. Like,
okay.
Andrew and his dad had discussed it about, you know, I think a week before beer school started. They kind of like talked about it. He just decided, you know, I'm going to go to beer school. So he signed up, and they're like, oh, it's too late to sign up. And he's like, what happens if I pay in advance? And I'm like, welcome to beer school. And
money talks.
Yeah, so he got in there. And then, he made the offer right before we went to Germany, but like it really didn't come to fruition where we sat down and had honest talks until we were in Germany together. And then I had like no TV, no phone, no internet. So when those things are removed from your life and you literally have no other option but the brewing book sitting in front of you, there's no way to out procrastinate that. It's just not possible. So I ended up learning, I think most of the stuff I learned became a lot of like self-taught. I started writing like master's level dissertations on like foam stability and pH and, you know, haze and, you know, which was really good because I learned a lot, and that allowed me to ask more specific questions.
So you're in Germany, and this starts to get set up here, where we are now.
Well, it wasn't even set up.
Back there. But yeah, I want to ask, like, how did the brewery start here? Like, there must have been, like, were you here for construction? What were some of the problems that you faced putting this all together with the equipment that you can see in the background there? Like, what were some of the pitfalls and some of the glory moments that happened with getting this brewery started? Not as a brew pub, but this building here where you actually make the beer.
Well, the benefit for us is we were able to actually design the building around the brewery. And so Andrew flew me out to Korea, made me the official offer. It was a whirlwind week of going out, trying this brew pub, this brew pub, this brew pub, this brew pub, this, you know, just one after another after another. You know, we'd walk in, order all the beers, take like a sip of each, walk out, run to the next place. So a little baptized in the fire there, but that allowed us to really give me an idea of where Korea was at in the craft brew market.
Right. Feel out the competition.
Feel out what was going on. And then Andrew eventually moved to Columbus, and we spent over 2 years working on recipes. We worked on the design of the brewery. We ordered it. Our brewery took 1.5 years to manufacture.
Oh wow! I didn't realize it was that long.
It's not a slow process. We were working on this brewery before it opened for about 4 years.
Holy shit! Okay.
We spent a lot of time so that we would have everything set up as good as we possibly can. So the building was built while we were in the U.S. So I was not able to do anything. You know, Andrew went back and forth, but I didn't have any like say. But the building contractors had our designs. This is where the system's going to go. These are where the tank's going to go. This is the extra space in case we want to do a tank expansion. You know, yada yada, and then the whole rest of the design went into place that way. So there was a lot of legwork. I think we did like 300 different test batches. We isolated new strains of wild yeast and bacteria.
Congratulations.
Like the awards in Hong Kong and Singapore. Can you just give us like? I know this is way before.
Well, no, this was a different award than that.
But I want to ask you about that because that's one of your newer things that you've had in your life. What, in the last month or two, I guess? There's been the Hong Kong and the Singapore Beer Awards that you've swept that stuff. It's insane.
Hong Kong, Singapore, and Japan.
Yeah. So can you tell us a little bit of that? Like what beers that you won awards for? General sentiments and feelings.
I don't remember all of the precise ones that we won medals on.
That means he won a lot.
We took
Sorry.
seven or eight in Hong Kong, 3 in Japan, and then 5 in Singapore.
Hong Kong is where you kind of swept up, right?
Right, Hong Kong.
Yeah.
We won best South brewery for South Korea.
Yeah. I was gonna say, this is what I tell people. It could be argued that at the moment you're the best brewer in the country. You understand that, right? You laugh, but it could be argued. It could be argued.
Arguments, however wrong they are, could be made.
You're too modest.
I mean, you're never expecting to win. It's highly flattering. There's
Right.
a lot of competition. For us, the big one that really showed us where we're at was Japan.
Why is that?
Because it's considered the most prestigious. It's kind of like the GABF of all of Asia.
Okay.
They bring in judges from Europe, and they bring in judges, from Japan, and there's a very stringent, policy on everything, and it's very hard to win because there's over 1,000 beers that are entered, or more than that. It's a lot that goes into this. So if you win, it's considered very impressive. And taking 3 for us, and
No, not to put you on the spot. Those awards specifically, do you remember specifically what those were, the Japanese ones? Were they like brewery based, or were they for specific beers?
They were specific beers.
Okay.
I know we got like a silver for our Keller beer,
Nice.
our Pilsner. We got I think a bronze for the coffee, and I can't remember what
Coffee Kolsch, right?
It's more Hellas now. We decided to use lager yeast.
My info's out of date.
It constantly changes. And then I don't remember what the third one was for, honestly.
But they feel good.
It feels great when you do it, but whenever you sit there and it's not a goal, you're like, oh man, what can we do to make this better?
What are some of the operating principles or like guiding principles that you would say drive you when you're making your beer here for this brewery? Like set ground rules or motivational things that you have personally.
We have 3 rules when making or trying a beer.
Okay.
That we think everyone should universally follow.
Okay, and those are?
There's 3 levels basically. Level 1, you get a beer. Do I like this beer enough to finish it? That's level 1. If you drink it, you're like, this is disgusting. I'd rather dump this or not finish it, or
Never a good sign.
leave behind some of it. That's not a good beer. But if you pass level 1, it's a good beer. Okay, good beer. If you pass level 2, which is you want to order a second one, that's a good beer. It's good enough that you want to order a second one. Then the level 3 is, if you're out and about and you see it at the store, would you buy a 6-pack or would you buy a bomber?
Like, would you travel or go out of your way?
Right,
Yeah.
or would you do it like take home? It's one thing drinking a draft, it's another thing, it's like, I'm picking this to take back to usually drink with friends or to drink on my own. That's a great beer.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to be any higher than a level 3. It doesn't need to be one where you mortgage your house because you want to buy this, 18% Imperial Stout that's been aged in 4 different barrels, and then it's got vanilla beans and cinnamon, like your a la like a Dark Lord or a Hunapun or KBS. It just needs to be like a good beer. And so for us, we want to make all of them level 3. We won't put out anything that we think is level 1 or below, like any defects we won't put out.
Yeah, if like you can't finish a cup of it, it's just chuck it.
It's bump. We probably won't put out anything under like level 2 for us.
Okay.
But we just want to produce really good, clean, balanced beer. I would like to help create a bit of a revolution here in Korea. We have to get people to change. My dad was a lifelong Bud Light drinker, and it was a slow thing to get him. I had to go and it's like, here's an amber lager, and then from there, here's a pale ale, and let's pause because I think
Momentary intermission. So we took a little break there. One of Jason's, I don't know, someone he knows, he's a farmer. He has a black pig farm, and they give him the spent grain from the beer making process, and the pigs eat the grain. The pigs are happy. Jason's happy. They don't have to throw it out. and the guy gives them some pork in return. It's a nice deal that they have. So Jason will be back in a sec, and we'll continue this interview.
So my father was a lifelong Bud Light drinker. Got him into like an amber lager, I think, first, and then a pale ale. You know, he do an IPA, and then from there, you know, start moving in darker browns, different styles. So it's very much a gradual process. Some people will come, especially women, tend to enter through either sour beers or Belgians, saisons. The more phenolic-y ones, females tend to be more drawn to those. The more bitter, the more boozy tend to be for males. I don't know what the difference is there. But there's always like, it's just all barley sugars in different combinations, all alcohol, ethanol. I was explaining to, our employee, like why does alcohol exist? And we don't think about things in terms of like the biological connections and the circle of life. Like all alcohol is, all ethanol produced is produced by yeast as a biological defense mechanism. It is to defend their sugar source. They produce CO2, which lowers the pH. They produce ethanol, which is literally poison. So we as humans, drink poison in controlled doses without drinking too much. It's a control.
Well, we do that too. Yeah.
We do that too, and bad things happen. But in the end, it's the yeast are producing this ethanol to defend their sugar so that they can have all this food so that, bacteria don't come in, molds, don't come in and take what's theirs. So everything in life is, defending sugar sources. So going back to my dad, a few years later, we went to the bar, again, lifelong Bud Light drinker. All they had in draft was like Bud Light, a couple ice. He gets a Bud Light and he drinks it and he looks at it and he hands it to me, and I'm like, what's wrong? He's like, you should try it. And I tried it, I'm like, yeah, it's Bud Light. And he's like, yeah, it doesn't have any flavor. I was like, yeah, I know. He's like, what?
Well, it's like McDonald's. If someone wants to go to Busan and have no surprises, they go to Mickey D's. Same thing if you go to Busan and you just want a beer, it's like, oh, I've had Cass before, and that'll apply the exact same way down there that it will anywhere else.
But Cass still, and like the majors still control so much of the market that it's like there's tons of growth potential.
Yeah.
But what the other craft breweries, because I was talking to some of the craft brewers, and they're like, oh man, it's getting saturated. And I'm like, have you been to Vermont? Have you been to Colorado? Or they have, I think, was it like 500, 600 breweries per million people in Vermont.
Jesus.
And we have just over 100 craft breweries for 51 million. To me, that doesn't say saturation. To me, that says we've got people that we've got to teach what beer can be. And maybe they had beer in the past that wasn't very good, like craft, and then they swore off on it because their first experience with it was not very good. Hops are incredibly more expensive over here after you cross the ocean with them. Grains take 3 to 4 months to get here. We don't have even half to a quarter of the amount of grains that you can get in the U.S. Yeast only now recently. Before you could pretty much only use dry because liquid would take like a month, and by the time it comes to you, it's no longer vibrant, healthy yeast.
Yeah.
So things were put into place, and gradually they're changing. If I want to create a beer, I have to submit a recipe with all of my grains, hops, yeast to them. And then the government tells you yay or nay. And they can tell you no if you have something in the wrong line. But this will take 3 weeks just to get approval. So say your recipe gets approved and doesn't get rejected. Say you put wheat on the wrong line, they reject it, that could be up to another 3 weeks of waiting. So now you get the approval to brew the beer. You brew the beer, once it's finished, then you got to send it out for alcohol testing. And then once you have the alcohol testing is done, then you got to wait a week to get labels that then go onto your keg. That you have to pay a lot of money for these labels. In the U.S., pretty much any other country, it's like, I want to make a beer, I make it. I sell it, people don't like it, it goes by the wayside, people like it, we can bring it in and maybe make it a regular beer. of the things that happened to us early on that we were trying to figure out is a lot of the craft beer that's drank here is imported from Europe, right? And you get some stuff from the U.S., but a lot of what first started here was like the German beers being imported and stuff. And people kept coming up and saying, your beer's not malty enough. And we're like, it's pretty high, final gravity. It's a lot of Munich malts, a lot of melanoidin character. It's malty. That's not malty enough. And so then, we made some more tweaks, try to get more malty. It's not malty enough. And we couldn't figure out what people were talking about until one day somebody gave us an example of it, and we realized what they were talking about, which was old. When you have an old beer, the hops start to fade from it. As oxidation happens, the color changes. It gets what you could say is more malty, but it gets a little bit sweeter cardboard that happens to it. And so what people were used to was this like 6-month-old beer, being brought overseas, whereas now heavily oxidized and sweeter. And so what their baseline was wrong. Like, how do you tell people to be like, no, like,
It's not true.
it's not.
You've been drinking shit this whole time.
Well, it's not necessarily that it's shit. It's just it's past its prime.
Right.
I think beer is best drank within 200 kilometers of where it's created. If you go any further than that, it's not going to be the same. Like, our Pilsner doesn't sell very well at all, but it's taken 5 medals. Like, it is a really it is a really well done Pilsner. We take a lot of pride in it. It is very, very true to style of what you'd have in Germany. And but people don't get, well, why is it that much better than it costs? So a lot of education has to happen.
Well, yeah, if you get people hooked on craft beer, not even from yours necessarily,
Anyway.
but in general, they'll come and they'll try yours, and they'll come and they'll try hers and his and theirs.
You become more open, and it becomes more exciting, and
Yeah.
it becomes more interactive. It becomes, you drink a lot, like, yeah.
We'll cut that part out. Question 1: future of the brewery. I mean that in a very broad sense, and I also mean that, like, are there any projects that you have in your head that you want to try that you can divulge? I know there's a certain amount of secrecy around new recipes per se, but
Right, we're going to start slowly introducing more new beers. Again, as I've just explained, it takes a long time
right.
for the whole approval thing and to get the beers out. So we'll be starting to release some seasonals. I mean, eventually we'd like to open up some more restaurants. The idea would be to be able to do one-offs and then have the ability to sell it all to yourself. So you don't have to worry about it. So you can do a creative one-off, and you can sell it to your own place like you would in the US, where you have your tap room where you sell it to yourself, and then you get feedback, because that's what helps. Is people are like, I really like this, or I really don't like this. Here's why, and you can learn from it, because it's liquid cooking. You're not always gonna hit. Things don't always turn out the way you want. There's a lot of variables at play. We're going to be doing some barrel aging, some high ABV, like probably do like an Imperial Stout release once a year and some whiskey barrels. We're going to be doing a lot more of the sours. There's some in barrels aging, but we're going to be introducing a lot more. We'd like to collect some wild yeast, new strains of wild yeast from Korea, do some lab isolations. We want to build a big lab for here, clean up the process, really get the consistency. We're looking into a tank upgrade. We're kind of at full capacity already. We hit full capacity in about 4 to 5 months being open. So we're looking at the ability to upgrade, whether or not we want to bottle or can, if that's something we want to do. So we're just looking towards the future, opening up a few more restaurants. So next year we'll probably see a tank upgrade and maybe a couple more restaurants opening, and then kind of going from there, seeing
home
where we
day.
end up. Real estate is expensive.
I know, we were talking about that the other day.
Real estate's very expensive.
And I'll give you one last question. As far as other breweries in Korea are concerned, like, what are some other breweries that you really respect, or that you'd want to do, like, you're talking about collaborations earlier. What are, like, some breweries that you really admire and respect their beer, and what beers do you like and why, and, like, who would you want to do a collaboration with if you could?
I think what's kind of interesting is a lot of the brewers here are actually expats.
It's true.
Yeah. But I will say that the best Korean-born brewmaster is the guy from The Table.
Okay.
He is a very, very smart brewer, and he has a very strong understanding of the process, the science, the chemistry, and they make really good beer. I would love to make a beer with The Table. I think they make, if I go out drinking, I will frequently have their stuff. It's very clean. I'm at this point in my life, I prefer clean, balanced. I don't like stuff that's all out of whack, too boozy, too hoppy, but not in a like refreshing way. I think Fred from the Ranch makes really good beers, especially in the hoppier vein. I dig some of the Wild Wave stuff. They do some cool sours. It might be fun to do a sour collaboration with them. Our friend Phil, who runs Bud Namu, we like his stuff. He's a really good dude.
Jason, thank you so much for having us. And thank you for your time.
Oh, no problem. Anytime, come back. We're going to keep working on getting better, keep working on creating some new stuff, and keep working on putting Korean craft beer on the map.
Upwards and onwards.
Godspeed.
Yeah.